Oh, since that popped up now, I would like to point out that today's event are being recorded. Parts of today's event are being recorded for the Czech Fulbright Commission, specifically the main room where we are now will be recorded. We are unable to record, unfortunately, all the breakout rooms. To get back to myself, as I said, I served on the board of the Fulbright Commission in the Czech Republic for 6 years. In my non-Fulbright existence, I have been at Masaryk University in Brno in the Czech Republic for almost 30 years, lecturing in American Studies, and for the past 4 years, serving as the director of our university's Center for Teaching. As someone whose life has been directly and indirectly involved with the Fulbright program since 1988, I firmly believe in the importance and impact of Fulbright. But of all its different programs, the one I feel perhaps that has the greatest impact is the English Teaching Assistant Program. Whether they are placed in secondary or tertiary educational institutions, it is the ETAs who can have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people in their host countries. For many of these people, their contacts with American ETAs may be their only opportunity in their life to get to know an American over a longer period of time and in a more intimate fashion. The depth of their cultural and social immersion goes beyond the level of integration of most study abroad or university exchange students or scholars, or even diplomats who live in the country for a couple of years. Today, we will be hearing about the impact the ETAs had on their local communities, which I know will show how profoundly this contact can be. Today's panel will present the achievement of Fulbright English teaching assistants from 4 European countries and the long-term impacts that their Fulbright grants had on themselves and their host communities. Alumni of Fulbright programs from the Czech Republic, Poland, Germany, and Slovakia will discuss changing perspectives through art, supporting and promoting diversity, expanding worldviews and future study, and career opportunities, and the power of international exchange for educators. It's worth noting that this panel discussion is taking place as part of dual anniversaries this year. First, this year marks the 75th anniversary of President Harry S. Truman signing into law the Fulbright Act, as proposed by Senator J. William Fulbright of Arkansas. The second anniversary is the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the binational Czech Fulbright Commission, which has members representing the Czech Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport, the US Embassy in Prague, and citizens of both countries. So happy anniversaries rather, to one and all, and we wish you much continued success for the next 75 years. That having been said, I would like to now move on to the main part of the program. I would like to introduce the 4 Fulbright Commission directors from the participating countries and invite them to say a few words. So to start, allow me to present one of our hosts, Dr. Hana Ripcova from the Czech Fulbright Commission. Hana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome from the Czech Fulbright Commission. I'm glad my colleagues from the neighboring countries agreed to join us for this panel. I think it shows how we value this very component of the Fulbright program we are running, the English Teaching Assistant Program. Bringing young Americans to our countries and having them help with teaching English language throughout the country means building real bridges between the peoples, especially if the assistants get involved not only in their host schools, but also reach out to the communities they are placed in. Often, more than any other Americans in the Czech Republic, and I include the US diplomats in this, they play the role of US ambassadors in the region, and their impact goes well beyond the academic year they spend here. In case of the Czech Republic, our English teaching assistants are placed at secondary schools of all types, and they are typically in small towns where their presence can really make a significant difference. For this panel, we had to select just one example for each country. But among those hundreds of English teaching assistants we hosted in the Czech Republic, most would have a very interesting story to tell and describe the ways in which they found ways to connect with Czechs, be it their colleagues at the host schools, students, people from the local community. Many of them return and keep the ties they created, and we are really grateful for that. Some tell us about the ways the Fulbright year gave them insight into a different culture and also provided them with a wonderful chance for personal growth. It also tested their flexibility and adaptation. Even though we are going to present just a few examples, I would like to give praise to all who are involved in this great program. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Hana. It's my great pleasure next to introduce the Executive Director of the German American Fulbright Commission, Dr. Kathleen Fisher. Dr. Fisher, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. It is a pleasure and honor to be here, and I'd like to express my thanks on behalf of the German American Fulbright Commission to the Fulbright Commission of the Czech Republic for the opportunity to participate in today's program. I am also a Fulbright alumna and thrilled to be back in Berlin, and I'm particularly pleased about this event because it showcases a program that I think has tremendous impact. You, the English teaching assistants, are shaping the views of tomorrow. And that means you're shaping the future of relations between the United States and your respective country. And that is tremendously important right now, particularly given the societal change in many countries. The Fulbright, the German American Fulbright Commission's ETA program is characterized by a couple of things that are standouts if you've looked at some of the data. First of all, its size. In the last 30 years, Fulbright Germany has supported over 3,100 ETAs. The program expanded it from its origins in 1991 from 30 grantees to about 140 a year now, making it one of the largest. And as Hanka described, the ETAs go everywhere. 3/4 of them go to elementary and to also all types of secondary schools, as well as to vocational, technical, and specialized schools. And many are placed in rural areas or in regional cities, so they really are citizen diplomats interacting with Germans who may not have had much contact with Americans. I think one of the special values of the program is that in contrast to some of the other Fulbright programs, and they are all wonderful, it probably better reflects the changing diversity of US society. It's been more responsive in that sense to societal changes. And that, of course, has been diversity, equity, and inclusion have been a priority for the Fulbright programs. And we are seeing some progress. We're very pleased that in the last few years, participants in the ETA program have been more diverse in their regional origins, in their home institutions, in their background, whether it be socioeconomic background, or perhaps because they are first-generation college students, race and ethnicity, and also gender and sexual orientation and identity. But more needs to be done. We recently celebrated the 75th anniversary of the Fulbright program with our Fulbright Germany Day. And during the panel discussion, it was quite clear that we have a lot more work to do, particularly in addressing questions of equity, the barriers to participation that underrepresented communities may face in participating and applying to Fulbright programs. And diversity is important, particularly for the ETA program, because you are the citizen ambassadors. You are in places where many of your neighbors or those you interact with have not had much contact with Americans. That means you're not always in an easy or comfortable role, and we realize that. And that's one of the reasons I'm very pleased that Fulbright Germany is planning a pilot buddy program to pair ETAs with the alumni of Fulbright Germany and with German American institutes in certain regions. We also welcome the efforts, the initiative of global alumni to participate, to activate affinity groups. And I'm very pleased today to see that we have the founding members of Fulbright Prism, Mikhail, Aguile, and Lara Steinke. Glad to see that you're here with us today. Thank you so much for doing that. Because in the end, the emphasis on diversity is about how the Fulbright program has continued to adapt over the last 75 years to change so that it can remain relevant to transatlantic relations and a strong pillar of that relationship. Because in the end, it is about the mission. The Fulbright program seeks to build cross-cultural and international understanding through exchange. And therefore, it's important that those exchanges represent the full diversity of our respective societies. And I expect there'll be a lot of discussion about those themes later today. So many thanks. And Jeffrey, let me turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fisher. It's now my pleasure to ask Justyna Janiszewska, Executive Director of the Polish-American Fulbright Commission, to say a few words. Justyna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I have to applaud you for your spelling of my very Polish family name. Thank you very much. It was perfect. It is really difficult to add something general about the program, its mission and its values after my two wonderful colleagues, Hana and Kathleen. So let me concentrate on giving you a general overview of our ETA program in Poland, because it is a little bit different animal than all three other countries that are here represented here today. Our English teaching assistants are placed at the universities. So coming to Poland, you're practically become a university instructor for a year, facing oftentimes students that are even a little bit older than you are. So our ETAs are teaching undergrad students, graduate students. Sometimes they also work with PhD candidates or even faculty, not in the sense of teaching English as a general language instruction, but for example, supporting their academic writing, which means that it can be really meaningful experience, but certainly a different one than being a teacher at the middle school or high school. I'm myself not a teacher. I'm an educator of informal educator, and I personally prefer working with adults. So I understand that some people also choose us over some other countries because they feel they would work better with more adult audience. However, it doesn't mean that our ETAs don't have exposure to younger audiences. Outreach, reaching out to our general public, to schools, to students, to informal groups, to people gathering at different places in our society is very, very important part of our ETA program. And this is also something Julianne will talk a lot about. So it is a mix. It is a mix of academic and very non-academic experience. And I think that this is also an important part of this incredible value of this program, that it's reaching to so many different people and definitely far beyond academia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Janiszewska. I enjoy saying your name. It's not that hard at all. And so to close out this portion of the program, it's now the turn of the director of the Fulbright Commission for Educational Exchanges in the Slovak Republic, Lydia Tobiashova, to welcome you all. So Lydia, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Jeff. I also want to applaud you for spelling my name correctly. So thank you very much. I'm really glad on behalf of Fulbright Slovakia. I really want to express my gratitude to be able to participate in this very interesting panel, especially for me, because this is my first cohort of ETAs as from the perspective and position of executive director. I'm also Fulbright alumna. I was Fulbright scholar 11 years ago. And if I should say something about ETA program in Slovakia, so having heard all that has been said, it's really difficult to close this introduction, as ETA program in Slovakia really differs from my predecessors. So it's rather small, and the beginning of the ETA program in Slovakia dates back to 2005, 2006. This was the first academic year when we received ETAs in the country. So also the program has gone through certain development and changes. First, ETAs were placed at higher educational institutions. There was really, really small program. Over the years, like few years later, there was a mix of ETAs placed at universities and high schools. And I think that it was the academic year 2012-13 when we somehow, with the agreement with Ministry of Education, Research, Science and Sport of the Slovak Republic, who is fully funding and supporting this program in Slovakia, agreed that we would follow the main principle in distributing and placing ETAs, so that we would spread ETAs all over the country, so that we would give a chance to really rural areas, small towns, or not just grammar schools, but other types of schools like vocational school, other special schools who would not otherwise have either resources or opportunity to have a foreign lecturer, especially English teaching assistant, lecturer of English language. So we really consider this program of great value and great importance, especially that because the environment in Slovakia, especially in the regions and in the rural areas, is really different from the capital. This is really the unique opportunity for whole schools and students and teachers to have and to be exposed to English teaching assistant from a very different culture. It can be really for the first time in their life that they really meet someone from abroad, not from the United States, but from abroad. So the exposure to different culture, different background, and different country, and also educational system is really important. It is also important to our educational system from the teaching perspective. And I think that our representative, our ETA from 2018-19, Grace Sprocket, is really a great representative of the teaching aspect of ETA program. The priority of Ministry of Education to the future in Slovakia is to increase innovative approaches to education, and also to increase critical thinking. I think that the ETA is a wonderful way, the ETA program is a wonderful way and tool how to achieve these goals. And just one more remark, that currently we have, in Slovakia, is administratively divided into 8 regions. And as the main principle that we really follow is that we place in each region, we place ETA. We are a really small program, so since 2005 and 2006, there have been around 100 ETAs in the country. And we also believe, and we are convinced, that the impact of the ETA program is long-lasting. And Grace Sprocket is again one of the good examples, because she returned to Slovakia to teach secondary school again and to work on innovation and revolution in education in Slovakia. So we're really grateful for that. And that would be enough for me. Thank you very much. And I'm really happy to hear today's stories and to get inspired. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Tobiashua. So thank you to the directors for your kind words of introduction. Before we move on, I have one more announcement. At some points during today's event, screenshots will be taken of the participants. So if you're not comfortable having a screenshot on, then please feel free to turn off your video, and you won't be there. So now it's the turn of the stars of today's program, our ETA alumni, to introduce themselves and to share a bit of their stories. These stories, or their background that they're going to give you, will help you choose which of the breakout rooms you will want to join in the following portion of the program. So each of them will have about 5 minutes to share their story and entice you to visit their breakout room. So I'd like to begin by asking Grace Sprocket, who worked in Slovakia, to kick things off. Grace, the floor is yours.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Jeff. If I knew I needed a bribe, I should have started saying bribes earlier to come to my room. So I'll start bribing you guys now. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's a great honor to be here and be one of the ETAs that will be speaking among a great panel that we have today. A little bit about my background. I'm originally from the Midwest, so I am from Ohio. Yes, thank you, Lara. I started my bachelor's degree at the University of Cincinnati. where I received my bachelor's in secondary education in history. I was a history teacher for a little bit in the States and then decided to do a Fulbright in 2018 and 2019. I chose the lovely country of Slovakia, as Lydia was pointing out. Main reason for that was my family history. My grandmother is actually Slovak, so grew up with the culture, grew up with a little bit of the language, and of course the magnificent food. So decided to come over to Slovakia and fulfill my Fulbright there. I was placed in a small town about 30 minutes outside of the capital city of Bratislava. It was called Modra, known for its wine and its ceramics. So I really was placed in a very great town, I believe. There I was at a gymnasium where I worked with students aged 11 to 18 as an English teaching assistant. So my main role was really working on English conversation within all of these classes. Following my Fulbright, I decided to kind of do a little bit of a U-turn and decided to go to the University of Edinburgh to study sport policy, management, international development. My goal as an educator was to merge kind of the two together, this idea of sport and this idea of education. How can we combine the two of them to kind of create the ultimate methodology of teaching, I guess would be the best way to say that. After I completed my master's degree, because of COVID, at my parents' dining room table back in the Midwest. It was very anticlimactic. Completed that and decided I love Slovakia. I really want to see a change within the educational system of Slovakia, as Lydia pointed out. So I decided to come back to Slovakia. I'm currently living here in the capital city of Bratislava. And my current role is a IB coordinator / teacher within one of the gymnasiums in Bratislava. My main job there is English and history yet again, but really my main purpose in coming back, as Lydia was saying, is to see this idea of transformative education. So if you come to my session and I have bribed you enough, my main goal within the session is to teach kind of this role of best practices. What pedagogy can we be using in the classroom to really transform student learning? What methods can I teach you? Can you teach me? Have brainstorming session in that way, and really kind of kick off this idea of an education revolution, not only in Slovakia, but kind of throughout the world. So thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Grace, for that very enticing invitation. I'm sure that many of us will be looking forward to hearing you, working with you in your workshop. So next to speak is Hana Saks, who is an alumna from the Czech Republic. So Hana, if you're ready, off you go.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And thank you again for being part of this panel today. My name is Hannah, as Jeff said, and I'm originally from the state of Virginia in the US, though I currently reside in Burlington, Vermont. So it's nice and chilly where I am currently. I graduated from Smith College in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in theater directing and religion. And immediately following my graduation, I completed a Fulbright ETA year in the Czech Republic. Specifically, I was placed in 2 connected secondary schools in the town of Frýdek Místek, which, if you're familiar with the geography, is in the Moravian Silesian region. While I would truly consider my Fulbright year to be probably one of the most meaningful experiences of my entire life, it wasn't without its challenges. And some of those challenges will form a core part of my story that I will be sharing in my breakout session today. In particular, I'm going to share a little bit about a specific series of incidents related to xenophobia that occurred within my school context, and why I decided to put all my passion and energy into the school's theater program as a result of that. And thankfully, I will be joined by Monica Kopchanova, who was my unofficial but really official Fulbright mentor throughout my time abroad. And she is also the former director of that theater program. So she will be with me in my session to share the Czech perspective on my story and to offer a little bit of context. So while I will always treasure my Fulbright year and the opportunity I had to have such an immersive cross-cultural experience, I also took a little bit of a pivot from education as a formal career following that year. I later on got a degree from Yale Divinity School, and I now work as the creative director at a religious community. So slightly different, but I do feel myself very regularly drawing upon what I learned during my year abroad. And if you come to my session, I would love to share more of that story with you and specifically talk about some of the theater practices that we used in our work, including Augusto Boal's Theater of the Oppressed. So if that at all interests you, I hope that you will join our conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Hana. Again, I can't say that I wouldn't enjoy being in that session either. And I can only stress, because I've known Hana for several years from her time here as an ETA, what in fact an amazing ETA she was and what a wonderful job she did under not the easiest of circumstances. But you'll hear more about that from her. So next up, now it's the turn of Julianne Pario, who worked as an ETA in Poland. So Julianne, if you're ready.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff, and welcome everyone. It's wonderful to have everybody here and for the opportunity to speak on this lovely panel with my colleagues. My name is Julianne Pario. I'm originally from San Francisco, California, sunny California, but I'm currently located in New York City. I'm Filipino-American and I have a large community back home on the West Coast. I was a Fulbright ETA in Poland during 2014, 2015, a bit of a while ago in Bydgoszcz. I taught English and music in Kazimierz Wielki University to graduate and undergraduate students. And then I received an extension for my grant to relocate to Warsaw. And there I had the opportunity to mentor the incoming ETA grantees of 2015, 2016, taught at the University of Warsaw and the Institute of Applied Linguistics. And for me, the whole Fulbright experience really was like a culmination of different aspects of my journey and what I studied, and being able to actualize it in a really palpable form. I studied English and music literature at Santa Clara University, very close to my home in California. And from there, after graduating, immediately went into the workforce, and I worked with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. And I was in music therapy. So I did a lot of music-based improvisatory methods with trying to build or otherwise maintain the facilities of language with my patients. This got me to think of how to engage with other audiences in other countries, because I took a trip to Poland as a graduation trip with my parents, coming from my Filipino background. I'm Catholic, so I went over there and we were in this church, and being able to see multiple generations sing during the Christmas time together and knowing the hymns really inspired me to find a way to invoke the practices that I had been doing professionally into a more educational space. I also had a personal connection in Poland with one of my first friends abroad. When I was young, 20, still in college, I got to study abroad in England, and I met this wonderful Polish-British woman named Ursula, who became my big sister. And from there, telling me stories of her grandmother, and really hearkening this idea of ambassadorship from her is something that I learned, and something that compelled me to take all of these different experiences and then propel them into what became the opportunity for my Fulbright grant. So when I was in Bydgoszcz, I did a lot of outreach and sang with my students, creating a chorus and a benefit concert my first year. And then my second year, I had the privilege of facilitating around 49 different educational outreach opportunities. I did each one in different rural areas in Poland with the partnership of the American Embassy in Warsaw, the Polish American Freedom Foundation, and UN and Education USA's American Quarter Radom. And from there, I was able to step outside of my collegiate space in education in my assignment, and I was able to meet with younger audiences, children, and from there using those music-based improvisatory methods that I had used with the Alzheimer's and dementia patients to facilitate language learning, to facilitate dialogue, and to share a little bit about my story. Because I even brought a little ukulele. I would talk about you know, my heritage, and would cook with them and use different methods for learning. So even with everything, after my Fulbright grant, I went to my master's degree at Teachers College, Columbia University, studied international educational development. And then from there, the Fulbright has really, really informed the way in which I hope to create more outreach opportunities, initiatives as an international student advisor at Fordham University, where I work with 3,000 F1 international students right now, and hope for them to reach out to the community and engage. So if you join my session, we'll talk a little bit more about those methods, about how to create outreach initiatives, about aspects of ambassadorship and alternative literacies, engaging with students, not just linguistically, but through music and through kinesthetic aspects to build upon what it means to communicate diversity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julianne. Again, another fascinating session for some of you. And so finally, we have a panel that's being jointly run by two Fulbright ETA alumni from Germany, Mikhail Aguile and Lara Steinke. So I'd like to ask the two of them if they could present themselves and their program.
I can start, Lara, if you want. Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And Lara and I will be hosting the last panel that we're going to discuss today. A little bit of background on myself. I did my Fulbright ETA in Hamburg, Germany, in northern Germany, right near Denmark, in 2016, 2017. Lara and I were both placed in Hamburg, although at different schools. So I was at a Stadtteilschule Poppenbüttel, which is in northern Hamburg. It's one of the neighborhoods there. And I taught 5th through 12th graders. So I had quite a range of English teaching experience at my school. And what we are going to be talking about today is how to build and find community in a new and foreign space. The English teaching part of my Fulbright was wonderful and a great experience for me, but I actually struggled mostly with the social aspect, finding my people in a new place when there was some language barrier and when I was only in the country for a short period of time. So if you come to our session, you'll hear a little bit more about that. Lara, jump in.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself real quick and then give a final plug for our session. I'm Lara Steinke, they, them, she, her pronouns. I did my Fulbright with Michaela in Hamburg, 2016-2017. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so also Midwest. I went to university at the University of Eau Claire on the western side of Wisconsin, had a great German department, have been excited about German for a long time. So was really kind of looking at the Fulbright as a great opportunity to get over there to Germany, sort of a stepping stone, and integrate into the culture and get more exchange. And like Michaela, my time at the school, I was also at a Stadtteilschule in a different part of Germany, or a different part of Hamburg, same part of Germany. also there. That part was great. I was really warmly accepted into my school, but also had trouble sort of connecting with the greater community in Hamburg, which is also part of the reason we formed Fulbright Prism, which we'll touch on in, because we're all about creating communities, interacting with communities at Fulbright Prism and helping people do those things. Yeah, unlike some of the other panelists, instead of pivoting after my grant, I sort of doubled down and stayed at the school. I still teach at the school that I did my grant at. I'm now an English, German, and biology teacher. I'm actually head of the English department currently at the school that I taught at. So really there, making sure that there's a lot of interaction interculturally. I'm now the Fulbright mentor for our new Fulbrighter at the school. So there to keep those things going. So yeah, if you come to our session, you can hear a little bit more about PRISM and connecting with communities.
Okay, thank you very much, Mikhail and Lara. That was great. So now comes the hard part for most of you who've been watching passively through your screens. Now you're going to have to be active. We're going to ask you to choose a breakout room to join and to explore in better depth any of the four topics that we just heard about. And so I'm going to ask Kristina Dromaniova from the Czech Fulbright Commission to explain this process to you all. So Kristina, off you go.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everyone. So now all of you have the option to pick one of the themes that were introduced. Thank you, ETA alumni, for describing your themes. And I'm going to open 3 breakout rooms now because one theme will stay in the main room. So right now I'm setting the time for 22 minutes with a 2-minute countdown for everyone. And I'm opening all the rooms. Hopefully all of you will see, or many of you will see the option to join the room of your preference on your screen. There should be a new Zoom window popped up on your screen. So if you want to join the theme Creating Community, please click on the Join or Connect button on your screen and you will be in that room. If you want to join topic number 2, Education Revolution with Grace, please feel free to join the 2nd breakout room. And if you want to explore the theme of ambassadorship and outreach together with Julianne, please join the breakout room number 3. For everyone who wants to explore the theme of arts and theater with Hana Saks and Monica, you can stay in the main room. You don't have to go anywhere else. That theme will be discussed here in the main room. In case anyone, because we know that people are joining with different Zoom settings and different Zoom updated versions. So in case anyone has any technical issues joining the breakout room of your preference yourselves, please go to you can rename yourself and we will manually put you in the room of your preference. To do that, please go with your mouse, scroll with your mouse on the image of your picture on the screen. And if you go to the right upper corner with the 3 dots on your image, there should be an option Rename. So hit that option and instead of Kristina, put the number of your preference and we will manually assign you to that room of your preference. And in case this 2nd option still doesn't work for some of you, you can also use the chat that we have available here for everyone. And you can type the number of your preference into the chat window and we will manually assign you to the breakout room you want to go. So if I can repeat the numbers, I'll happily repeat the numbers. For Creating Community, it's breakout room number 1. For Education Revolution, it's number 2. For Ambassadorship and Outreach, it's number 3. And Theater and Arts stays in the main room. No need to go anywhere. If you're having any technical issues, you can rename yourself by clicking on the 3 dots on your image and renaming yourself, typing your number of the preferred breakout room instead of your name. Or you can also send us a message via chat. So if you go to the lower menu bar of your Zoom meeting, there you will have the option to hit chat and type your preferred breakout room number into the chat window. So we will still give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes and then we will start.
Maybe, Christina, I would suggest that if you could once more say the numbers together with the countries, because
Perfect.
some people may want to look at that.
Theme, breakout room number 1. The theme is creating community with Lara and Mikhail, Germany. That's number 1. Number 2, revolution in education with Grace. That's the Slovak ETA alumna. That is number 2, breakout room number 2, Slovakia with Grace, and the theme is education revolution. Breakout room number 3 with Julianne, the ETA alumna from Poland. Her theme is ambassadorship and outreach. And if you want to explore the theme of arts and theater with Hana Saks, you can stay in the main room. You don't have to leave anywhere else.
Hi, everyone. If I just may chime in, everybody who's now in the main session, it's currently 29 people. They want to be in the main session, right? If anybody needs reassigning, please give us a shout out now or send us a chat. Otherwise, we will leave you to it. Seems we might be good.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for choosing to be in this session. It's an honor to see you all here, and I appreciate you wanting to hear more about this story. So as a reminder, my name is Hana Saks, and I was an ETA in the Czech Republic in 2016, 2017. I first fell in love with the country of the Czech Republic actually as an undergraduate student when I studied abroad in Prague during my junior year. And after that experience, and once I heard that Fulbright existed in the Czech Republic, I was determined to apply. I had, as I mentioned, studied religion and studied theater, but I'd also had a lot of teaching opportunities, especially during summers. And I felt like this was the perfect opportunity to return to the country I loved, to learn more about its culture, and to also sharpen my own pedagogical skills. As I mentioned, I was placed in the town of Frýdek Místek, in a combined school that was half technical school and half business school. Now, I very naively, I will admit this to you all, I very naively thought, oh, I won't have any culture shock. This will be really easy. I already lived in the Czech Republic. Let me tell you, that wasn't quite true. As I settled in my new home and began teaching English at these two schools, I pretty quickly began to learn how different things were than I had anticipated, even in regards to what I had previously experienced in the country and at the other schools in Prague that I had volunteered with in the past. At this point, I want to be really clear. As I tell this story, I want you all to know that most of all the Czech students and all the Czech teachers and colleagues that I met were incredible. But as issues occurred, I did begin to see that some of the values I took for granted were not necessarily shared by the school's administration. So I will give a little bit of a content warning for xenophobia. You should probably know that from my initial introduction. But I do think it's important to give at least one specific example of the types of things that I encountered as an ETA in this school. So the first hint of trouble occurred when I asked several of my English classes to do an activity, a group project, where they worked together to identify an invention that they felt had made the world better, or that could potentially make the world better. They would choose this invention and they would talk about it. It seems pretty benign to me at first. Much to my horror, I had a group of students stand up in the class, present a gun, and explain to me that this would be a useful invention for killing the refugees who were trying to enter their countries. I was horrified. And then a second group stood up in that same class, and they told me that an invention that they felt had made the world a better place was the gas chambers during the Holocaust, because of their hatred for Roma people and for Jews. And they did not know that half my family is Jewish, so that was an especially hard comment to hear. And surprisingly, you know, I immediately tried to intervene. I was shocked, but I immediately tried to address the situation. And much to my surprise, the teacher, not Monica, let's make that clear, not Monica, stopped me from addressing the situation because she felt that the students were simply practicing free speech, that their presentations were not a big deal, and that I, as an American, simply couldn't understand the joke. So I then decided that I would try to address the situation with the man who was officially my Fulbright mentor. But he reiterated the belief that I was there to teach the English language and shouldn't necessarily bother myself with anything else. Monica was not my official mentor, but from the beginning, she was at my side, my greatest support in the country. She really took me under her wing. And she was distressed as I was about some of these comments that were happening in the class. And so she arranged for me to meet with the school's director in hopes that there could be some sort of an official response to this prejudice or some sort of anti-racism training. But I took two things away from the meeting with the school's director. The first is that he did genuinely want me to be comfortable at the school. You know, his intention was good in that way. He wanted me to feel safe. But the second thing that I realized was that he also did not necessarily feel like the comments were such a big deal. And I really came to understand that second point when he offered me his solution, which was that he would go into the classes where things had been an issue, and he would explain personally to the students that you can't say such things in front of Hana because Americans are more sensitive about these topics. So I could tell by some of your faces that you too would not necessarily have been super pleased with that proposed solution. And so I was really struggling. And at this point, I was in regular contact with Andrea and Hanka at the Fulbright Commission, and they were an amazing source of wisdom and support. They even personally came all the way to my school to check in on me and to speak with the director. But I think that they also found that he was pretty unwilling to discuss issues of prejudice. Instead, he felt that if it wasn't material for a test, it didn't necessarily need to be taught. So the Fulbright Commission offered to let me move to a new school, to a new region. And I will say that there was a second when I considered it, because I did have the feeling that I wanted to do more than just teach English. I wanted to make a difference. I've always liked the quote by Paulo Freire, who wrote that the educator has the duty of not being neutral. And so I didn't want to just stay silent and neutral in the face of such comments. But thankfully, I realized very quickly that I was not alone in this goal. Monica, as well as several other amazing teachers, shared my frustrations with the school's approach and wanted to create opportunities for students to grow into a real healthy learning community and address issues of social justice. And this is where the theater part of the story really comes in. So for context, it's maybe helpful to know that theater is not a regular part of high school in the Czech Republic. But 8 years prior to my arrival there, Monica had founded this amazing English language theater club at the school. And I had been part of it from day one when I arrived there. But up until this point, I have to admit that I sort of saw it more as like an extracurricular, my own hobby that I got to do while also doing my main job of teaching at the school. But as these incidents continued to occur, I realized that the theater really could become the center of my mission in the country, the center of my work. And it became my reason for staying in Friedrich Místek. So while I was limited to teaching some of the official curriculum in many classes, the theater was a place where Monica and I were free to go deeper with the students. We had regular club meetings where we did all sorts of games and activities, many of them from Augusto Boal's Theater of the Oppressed. And we also rehearsed a full-length play, Mary Zimmerman's A Secret in the Wings, which we were able to stage by the end of our time together. The students definitely improved their English through all these activities, but I think that there was so much holistic learning that went beyond just learning correct grammar. Augusto Boal wrote that theater is a form of knowledge. It should and can also be used as a means of transforming society. Theater can help us build our future rather than just waiting for it. He also believed that by taking on other characters, by allowing ourselves to imaginatively enter different scenarios, we actually develop empathy, which we all know is a really important tool for change. So I'm conscientious of time, but for the moment, will you humor me? Can we try one very simple, very adapted exercise that I would do with my students? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say a word, and one by one, silently, as you feel so moved, I want you to just make a shape, make a pose with your body that is your impulsive response to that word. It can be absolutely anything. We're gonna do it all at the same time. It's a no judgment zone. So the first word I want you to respond to is the word conflict. And now hold your pose until everybody goes ahead and chooses theirs. And I'll say, feel free to move your Zoom screen to see the other poses if that's interesting to you. Excellent. All right, with that feeling in your mind and in your body, let's choose a different word. I want us all to respond to the word peace. I love it. We have so many amazing interpretations. So in this very minuscule, brief exercise, we all saw that without even necessarily a common language or a common first language, we're able to really explore very complex, nuanced ideas through our bodies and in communication with one another. And that's why I feel that theater and the arts are such an important tool for community building and education, because they touch hearts as well as minds. Just to sum up sort of my experience, our school group played and created together throughout the year, and I actually felt like I did see real change. I was able to build genuine relationships with many students, including some that had been disruptive in classes. And these young people began to see me not just as some annoying American, but as Hana, as an individual person who cared about them and who was willing to talk to them about challenging topics that maybe some other teachers wouldn't want to talk about. And I feel like these students were then able to do what I could not. They then began to transform the dynamics in their own classes by speaking up to their peers when xenophobia occurred. So with that said, I want to give the floor to Monica. Monica eventually found her way out of that somewhat toxic school environment and is now doing amazing work as the principal or the director of a school in Ostrava. And I'd love for her to share a little bit about how she views our collaboration and the impact of cross-cultural exchange.
So thank you very much. So hello, everyone. My name is Monika Kopchanova, and I have worked as a teacher for almost my entire professional life. Currently, I am the headmaster or the principal at a language-focused grammar school. So I would like to share with you my experience with the Fulbright ETA project from my former workplace, where I worked as a teacher. So I was very happy to have Hana joining the school as a Fulbright ETA, with her focus being drama studies. As Hana has already mentioned, it's not so common to have drama lessons at Czech secondary schools, except for a few specialized schools focusing on kindergarten children or professional theater. So if there are drama lessons at common schools, so they are run by pure theater amateurs and enthusiasts like me, for example, because my major is economics and English. So that was the reason why I was so excited to have Hana engaged in our drama club for the whole academic year. So leveraging Hana's theater experience and having her as the director at our school play, so it was a great opportunity for all of us to learn something new. On the other hand, hearing about the incident, I was completely shocked. And I'm truly sorry about Hana's experience. The behavior of the concerned group of students has definitely no place in academic environment. We could have done a better job in addressing the situation. because our region is culturally quite homogeneous, the level of maturity in understanding and appreciating diversity is sadly quite low. So we definitely have a long way to go in this regard. Maybe I should explain what I mean by this expression, homogeneous region, so I can elaborate it a little bit. So, we are not Prague, we are not the capital. We are not so culturally diverse. People are not used to encountering difference. So compared to Prague, where most people speak some or decent English, our region is still behind. I can say we are not a go-to region for expats. And many people meet an English native speaker for the first time at school, if they are lucky and their school happens to have an English native speaker. So I think this is the similar situation as was described by Lidia Tobiashova from Slovak part of this panel. So considering all this, the level of maturity in diversity and in inclusion topics is very low in our region. I want to stress out that by no means this should be considered an excuse for inappropriate behavior of any kind. I just think it helps to understand the whole context and the amount of work we have ahead of us. I was very happy that Hana had decided to stay and not to leave early after this incident. The play she helped us stage was a big success. She had an inspiring approach to students and especially to disadvantaged students. The overall experience with the Fulbright program was enriching. It was a great learning opportunity for all of us. Being mindful of what happened, we can all see how important it is to continuously educate ourselves and our students in the diversity topics. I have since changed my role and became a high school principal. And now I strive to create a safe, inclusive environment where people can learn, grow, and support each other. I have been in my new role for more than 4 years now. And before COVID, we were lucky to have a Fulbright English teaching assistant, Maria, for 1 academic year. And Hana also came back to visit us or me and lead a series of workshops on the topic of theater and social change. I have to say one more thing. I need to say that I'm happy to see a positive impact in my former school. They have been engaging teachers and students in a new learning program, and they try to focus on creating a better school environment now. So finally, I would like to thank the Fulbright program for their work, and I would like to say that I sincerely value our cooperation. And thank you for having me here today.
Now, I believe that Christina says we have about 1 minute left. I did see one question in the chat from Moira, who says, can you let us know how you use exercises that do not rely on only one sense to understand what the group has selected? I'm imagining that you're talking about exercises that are not merely verbal or not merely physical. One of the exercises that I would just throw out for this question is also from Theater the Oppressed, which is called Forum Theater, which essentially involves a group of people presenting a situation of oppression or a situation of challenge. And then the audience, once they see the situation played out once, verbally and physically, can stop it and enter in and replace one of the characters, usually one of the oppressed characters, taking on that role and saying how they would intervene, how they would change the situation. So it's a way of basically having dialogue about solutions, both through our bodies and through our words.
Hana, maybe would you like to take one more question, given the fact that we still have people joining us from other breakout?
Of course. If there is another question, I'm happy to. And feel free to unmute yourself if you don't want to write it in chat.
I'd love to ask a question. So Hana, a lot of what you said resonated a lot with me. And I think back to what you said at the beginning, that the vast majority of coworkers and students did not display kind of alarming beliefs. And I think that's my experience too. And my gut reaction when put into these situations is like yours, to intervene, to like diffuse. But it seems like this theater project really affected like the silent majority. Did you see the intended ripple effects? Like did the more quiet students like gain more of a voice with issues and topics like this?
I think that's a great point and a great question. In my own experience, I think really one of the end results of this theater program that I witnessed was an increase in confidence amongst the students. As you said, like the silent majority really probably also found these comments incredibly problematic. But there was a culture within a lot of these classrooms where speaking up about such things or kind of naming the racist undertones of certain conversations was not cool. It wasn't done. And so I think that having the experience of doing theater where you really have to put yourself out there and be vulnerable on a regular basis, it's practice for the rest of life. It gives you sort of that experience of needing to be brave and needing to find the words to confront a situation that might scare you. So I would say that that's one way I saw the ripple effects, is not necessarily even just the content of what we did, but just the exercises of putting oneself out there empowered students to do it in other arenas of life.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there. Thank you very much, Hana. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that each of you found your breakout room to be informative and inspiring, but obviously because we couldn't all be in all breakout rooms, but we want to share. So what we're going to ask now is that we will ask each of the breakout rooms to present or give us the main takeaways from their groups. That could be either done, in three of the cases, will be done by the breakout room facilitator. But first off, Mikhail and Lara from the German Fulbright Commission have asked that they do it themselves, which is great. So I give the floor to Mikhail and Lara, and they will tell us what the main takeaways were.
Yeah, so just real quick, we talked about creating community or getting involved in community across cultural, language differences, and just how to best do that, or how some tips and things that we found through our journey as affinity group and just as ETAs in general. So the one thing that we say, and it's the reason we founded PRISM, is find your people through interests, find your people through things that are important to you, because that helps to bridge those differences. And the next thing we have, use your networks. Fulbright's a huge network, just in and of itself. There are lots of various networks within Fulbright, and the affinity groups are now new networks that are forming and are already large and great resources for everyone to use. So use those. And then just keep doing things that take you out of your comfort zone. Make sure you're feeling safe in whatever you're doing, but just keep trying, keep trying to get out there, because that's what we found has led to lasting community building things. Are those three things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lara. That was great, fantastic. So next up, I'd like to ask Anna Kiertichak from the Polish Fulbright Commission to present the takeaways from Julianne's panel. So,
hi. Well, it seemed like a really short breakout room that we had, but nevertheless, Julianne shared her experience with us about how she managed to be the ambassador of America and American culture and diversity in Poland. So the first takeaway is that it's through micro interactions and sharing personal narratives that the ETAs can fulfill the broader goal of ambassadorship and promoting diversity in American culture. The second one is that that especially if the people you're working with level of English is limited and you cannot really it doesn't allow for a full conversation, you can use creative modalities of expression or embodied learning through like singing, cooking, dancing, and exercises like this to enhance the ways in which you can communicate diversity and share American culture with others. But I think the most visible was that it's through outreach initiatives that ETAs as educators are able to facilitate opportunities for intercultural exchange and learning. And Julianne did as much as 49 of such outreach initiatives. So it is really amazing how you can engage with people outside of the classroom in non-formal educational spheres, like, for example, set up an adult conversation club, so that these non-formal spaces are also important for learning. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anna. I think those are all excellent points that I think would apply to all of our panelists here today. Next, I'd like to introduce Zusana Kopchanova from the Slovak Fulbright Commission, and she'll present the takeaways from Grace's panel.
Thank you, Jeff, for introducing me, and hello, everyone. So I was facilitating the breakout room called Education Revolution that was led by our ETA alumna, Grace Brockett. And Grace, as she also promoted, she shared her experience with ETA program in Slovakia. And mainly her mission when she was here in Slovakia as an ETA was to develop innovative and cooperative teaching techniques. And because the Slovak education system and the way how we teach and how the students learn at high schools, not only high schools, but in general, is based mostly on memorizing. So Grace decided that this should be changed, and she presented several best practices, what she used during her time as an ETA and when she taught at high school. So some of the examples she presented, they were all based on engaging all students with each lesson through creative teaching methods, based on the motto, I can teach you, so you can teach me. So she mainly used activities like playing games. So she tried to get students out of their seats. She used flipped classrooms, so students were the main source and they led the class. And what she highlighted, that it's very important to build trust with her students. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time to discuss in more detail, so maybe Grace wants to add something.
You really hit kind of everything on the head, Zuzka, but just this idea that, you know, an education revolution, either in Slovakia or any country you would be as an ETA or as an educator in general, really comes down to pushing yourself to go outside of the box, right? Go outside of your comfort zone. Even if you don't know if it's going to work or if it will be successful, that's okay. The best part about being an ETA is, you know, learning from our mistakes, like I was talking about. So really kind of pushing the envelope, seeing what you can do as an educator to really promote those high level of pedagogical learning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zusana, and thank you, Grace. And so now I'd like to ask Christina to present the takeaways from Hana Saks's panel. And so Christina.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Hana and Monica, for your excellent session. So in our session in the main room, Hana and Monica presented Hana's experience teaching at a high school in very east region of the Czech Republic. And Hana talked about some very uncomfortable and very much inappropriate comments and behaviors that she experienced while as an ETA. And she decided to address those challenges and those issues at her school by working with the techniques she learned with the Theater of the Oppressed. And she used her theater club to tackle many of those issues at her school. So with a couple of experiments or rehearsals and plays they practiced with the students during Hana's time at the school. And we did one of the very small and short experiments in our breakout room. Hana managed to play with her students' emotions, to encourage emotions, empathy, and sensitivity among her students. And she was using these theater tools to get her students to change their mind or change their perspective on certain issues. So the second takeaway from our breakout session is that authentic relationships are essential when collaborating in class culture environments, which means that you could hardly receive that change of behavior or perspective in any online or long distance formats. You really need to have in-person exchanges and immersive international education experience in order to have that dialogue.
Okay, thank you, Christina. I think, just all of the things that we've heard today, that all of you have heard, I mean, I think that there's a common denominator here that is really one of the strengths of the ETA program, and that's what happens outside the classroom, outside of the 20 hours or 21 hours or 22 hours a week that the ETAs are spending with students in the classroom, which is important. But I think that each of the stories that we've heard has been about reaching out, about going beyond that. And because they're dealing with young people with families often, encountering families, that the really critical part of this program is what happens beyond the classroom. And bringing in a huge, broad range of experience. I mean, I think it's so wonderful that we have so many different backgrounds in the ETAs, and each of them bring a unique perspective that really adds to the strength of the program. I think it's really, really important. And so I'd just like to congratulate all of our alumni here today for their amazing stories and for being willing to share them with us in this forum. So thank you all very much. Yes, we can snap fingers or, yeah. I believe we have a little bit of time for questions. Christina, you said there's a question in chat. I'm not sure exactly which question you're referring to.
I'm happy to read it.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
There was a question from, for Grace. I advise Fulbright ETA applicants, students coming from their undergrad or a few years out. And the person is asking, how does an applicant know when it is appropriate to propose teaching lesson plan ideas for which you are not sure the country you are applying to will embrace? I think that's an excellent question that applies to many of the English teaching applicants. Would anyone, ideally Grace, like to take that one?
I can start and then people can definitely piggyback on for sure. I think, great question in terms of how do you know when it's appropriate to kind of push the box, push the envelope in terms of lesson planning and what you're teaching your students from a different country. My advice would be to always kind of push that envelope in a respectful manner. So the way I did it within Slovakia was I would always kind of talk with my host teacher and say, this is what I'm planning on speaking about this week, whether that be, race relations within the United States, which obviously can go a lot of ways within different countries, LGBTQ+ within the community, different types of topics that might be considered controversial in different countries. So I think it's important to talk about those things. I think it's our role as educators to promote those ideas of open conversations around those topics. But I think giving your host teacher kind of a heads up and saying, this is what I'm doing, is a respectful way to kind of approach that. If anyone has any other thoughts on that, that would be great.
Thank you, Grace. I don't know if any of the other ETAs want to hop in. I mean, I think Grace covered it pretty well. I don't see any raised hands. So, and it is getting, we're down to, we're on time actually. This has been great. You've all been very disciplined and very good about that. So we're just about coming to the end of today's event. And so in closing, we've agreed that each of the executive directors will share with us their vision for the future of the ETA program. And so to begin, I would like to ask Dr. Fischer from the German Commission to speak. So.
Thanks, Jeff. I have to say, I was in the Creating Community group, but the thread that runs through that discussion in this entire session really leads to an exhortation, if I think about this Fulbright community in this particular program, and that is use the Fulbright network, the Fulbright community to affect the change you want to see. There is tremendous power in this network, tremendous power in the ETA program, the creativity, the ideas, the motivation. You are people of resilience and persistence. You're open-minded, you have a tolerance for difference. And those are all qualities that we need right now to affect change. One of the changes I would like to see, I'd like to see us make more progress in creating a more diverse, inclusive participant network. We need help figuring out where the barriers are. So please stay active, use the network to affect the change you want to see. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Kathleen, for those powerful words. Now I'd like to ask Justina to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Jeffrey. To talk about the future, I want to start in the past and tell you a short story. 2 years after we hosted Julianne, there was a wonderful young man as one of the EDAs in Poland. His name was Mikhail Gilmore. 2 months after leaving Poland, he died suddenly of brain aneurysm. It came as a shock to all of us. He made a lot of friends in Poland. He fell in love with another ETA. And, his friends decided to commemorate him. And the thing they came up with immediately was that the mission of the program should be carried on. So they collected funds through piano concerts and other donations. They collected funds to establish Mikhail Gilmore Engagement Fund that serves current ETAs in their outreach activities, which, tells me about the way the ETAs themselves see this program and see the core mission of the program. It is really important how you perform as ETAs in the classroom, because this is how you transfer very important skills and how you also build the intercultural experience. But it is really most important how you act outside of the classroom, how and in which form you engage other people, how far to what small villages and places where you might be the first American people see you reach out. And this is something I would really encourage those of you who still have this experience ahead of you, or maybe are advisors at the university, to promote that this program, its gravity is really on the intercultural experience and showing diversity of the United States to people all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justina, for that powerful story. I think it's a really amazing tribute to the power not only of the ETA program, but of that specific ETA and his impact on the community. Now I'd like to ask Lydia Tobiashova from the Slovak Commission to say a few words.
Thank you, Jeff, again. So I'd like to just say, and I don't know, emphasize the importance of ETA program also to the future from the point of people-to-people connections, people-to-people experience. I'm really happy to see that the Fulbright program, not just ETA program as a like sub-program of Fulbright program, but like the Fulbright program as a whole really promotes that and really puts emphasis on personal experience. I think that is very important, especially nowadays when we live in a digital era and we shifted to more like digital space. And I think that even though it's very helpful in many ways, nothing can really, in my opinion, beat personal experience. And really personal experience, intense and profound experience is a way how to change mindsets. And this is all about, so I think Slovakia is in the need of that a lot. And I think really ETA can really help us to improve in many different ways. As Grace said, it's not just the teaching in Slovakia and innovation and new techniques, but it's also to promote and build on values that are at the core of the Fulbright program. It's diversity, inclusion, and mutual understanding. So definitely the ETA program is an integral part of the Fulbright program in Slovakia, and we also want to expand this program and extend the number of ETAs to the future because we really see a great benefit of this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lydia. And lastly, but not leastly, Hana Ripcova from the Czech Fulbright Commission.
Thank you, Jeff. I just wanted to add a few things to the words my colleagues were saying. This is the Czech Republic Country Day, but as you see, we put such an emphasis on the English Teaching Assistant Program that we made it, in fact, the cornerstone of our Country Day. We think that it's extremely important for the whole country, but I also see it extremely important for all the young Americans who have the experience of being here for that one academic year. It's a delight for us to see them grow during that academic year. We meet them before the year starts, and then when we see them at the end, they are totally different people. They changed, and they have changed a lot around them at the schools. Of course, this program wouldn't be possible without the help of all the people at US universities who are able to help us identify those who would be excellent Fulbrighters, who help them prepare for the task. We have our colleagues at US institutions who help us then with the selections and with the placement of the ETAs. And then, of course, we have the mentors or other colleagues at the schools who help those who come to our country feel welcome here, even if the main mentor may not be that person. There is always someone. Every year there was someone at each of the schools who was able to play the role of the host in a way that each of our ETAs could well live through the experience and gain from it. So we think that without the help of all those people, and we are trying to give a helping hand as well, but all those people matter in the process. I think that Fulbright program, being the program about mutual understanding, really shows very well to all the people involved that mutual understanding is possible. And I certainly hope that this is not one of the last anniversaries we are celebrating, but I hope that the program will be continuing and that it will be in person, because trying to do all this in some online distant form just wouldn't work. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Hana. Before we go, I know that many of you have signed up for another Fulbright event that starts at 8 p.m. Central European Summertime. So if you have, please check your email inbox for the link to that event. That concludes our time together today. It's been my great honor to serve as your moderator. And I hope that each of you leave today inspired by the amazing work of our ETAs across Central Europe. Enjoy what remains of your day, be it a few hours or many hours. I wish you all a good evening and goodbye.
And thank you, Jeff, for moderating the panel. And thank you for all the help with the ETA program in the Czech Republic.
Thank you.